Hey, you know what it is. It's Zeus Cruz of Olympian Multimedia, and we're presenting you with another segment of A Word with the World. And as you can see, we are live in our virtual studio today. We have special guests, and this is a real treat for me. I definitely going to be for you viewers out there because I don't know anyone personally that is a voice artist or has anything to do or synonymous with that type of artistry. So it's a real treat to come across someone that we have in the studio today that can kind of give us some insight for myself and for the viewers and kind of dive into that world and get a kind of understanding about it. So please welcome Mr. Nelson. How you doing today, Mr. Nelson?
I'm doing well, Zeus. Thank you for having me.
It's definitely an honor and privilege to have you in here. I know you're busy. You definitely have so much that you're working on with the live events and different projects that you're working on. So it's just a real treat that you have the time to just sit down and we kind of like pick your head a little bit on different aspects of what you do as a voice artist. So hopefully for your viewers out there, if you're aspiring for yourself to get in this line of work, hopefully you take some of the tips, techniques provided by Mr. Nelson today, and hopefully gonna serve you well in the future. So let's start with something easy and straightforward. What aspects of voice artistry attracted you to pursue a career in it?
I think the biggest things happen to be like getting away from that 9 to 5 job environment, if you will. Or, in my case, I was working in a warehouse full time and just having that freedom and flexibility to make my schedule how I want, how to run my business the way I want, especially by, taking in opinions from other voice actors who are obviously way more experienced than I am. And just expanding on my horizons. People know me as a public address announcer for a variety of teams and schools throughout the New York City and Central New Jersey markets, but I wanted to expand on my horizons and find other avenues of making a living in voice. Because people who work as a PA announcer in sports, unless your name is Al Roach and you got opportunities to work some of the biggest sporting events, not just in the US, but also in the world, you're not going to make a living out of it. It's going to be, full-time, seasonal, part-time, income-based industry. So just having, or at least giving myself an opportunity to learn more about, speaking into a microphone, albeit in different types of genres, really opened my eyes and again, having that freedom and flexibility of running things the way I want to rather than having someone run things for me, I think was definitely the reasons why I wanted to pursue a career in voiceover.
Awesome. I mean, definitely flexibility is such a thing that we definitely can't undermine or appreciate enough. So the fact that you're able to work for yourself, set your own schedule, and then the beauty of it too is just the fact that you expanded, right, on your voice abilities into creating more of a market for yourself so that you can kind of expand on your repertoire, show that you have these abilities, you can do different things with your voice. I think we all strive to do that, especially when you go into business as well. I know for a lot of viewers out there, I do have a day job, but I do operate Olympian. So the ultimate goal is eventually to become Olympian, be my 9 to 5. Because it's no greater feeling to know that you can get up in the morning and you kind of can just move in your own direction at your pace and work on the different projects that you're working on without any kind of restraints. So definitely I'm envious of you, Matt, for that. So let's move on to our next one. You touched base a little bit as far as adapting your voice ability and the ability to transition it between various types of voice work, from commercial to live event announcing to narration. So are there similarities when you're approaching each project regarding preparation? What are the differences?
So I think the biggest difference between like live event announcing sports and other types of voiceover work that I've done, whether it ranges from commercial to announcing or commercial narration, is the fact that when you're announcing the game, in my instance, it's a live audience and you have one opportunity to really like get their attention and get them riled up and, excited about their favorite player or what have you. And obviously you get the script. It may not always look perfect, especially if things are missing or something's misspelled or whatnot. But you have the opportunity to really, make people want to get out of their seats and go crazy. Biggest difference between that and the other voiceover work that I've already gotten into would be, again, sports announcing, you're doing it live. Whereas the other stuff, it's a matter of, speaking to yourself in the studio. So, doing it in multiple takes, whether you're doing it on your own time, you have a deadline, or you're doing it in a live directed session with a bunch of other people on the same Zoom call or Google Meet call, and, just getting a bunch of different opinions from different sets of ears so that they can, put everything together so that it sounds like it's something that they asked for. And I think a lot of times nowadays, and I hear a lot of this on podcasts within the voiceover industry, a lot of projects tend to stay away from that announcery style, which is what I have, right now as I'm doing this interview with you.
Mhm.
So I have to, when I get a script, I have to look at the specs. I have to look at what it's asking for and then think to myself, who's my audience? To whom am I speaking? Right. So if I'm voicing for, say, PNC or Ocean First Bank, more than likely it's going to be me, a voice actor, speaking to a new or existing client that I want to bring on board and maybe get them to, purchase something or buy into something that could potentially help them financially, right? So a lot of it, a lot of the different styles have to do with like conversational, sounding real or natural. I always think of my type of voice with a hint of sarcasm in some instances. You can listen to my reels on nelsonvoices.com to get a glimpse of what I sound like and where the sarcasm comes from. But again, you have an opportunity to, have multiple takes. And in some instances, when I have clients who send me projects, I have to learn how to time it out accordingly with what the video entails. Because they'll have the video and they'll have like a sample voiceover that they replace with my voice. To get an idea of how to go about the timing of the project so that I can
Right.
down to as close as I possibly can.
That's a good point. And I think for your viewers out there, I hope you're taking in the basic essence of what Matt is trying to say is the importance of preparation. Because you definitely want to put out the best product and put out your best foot forward when it comes to like putting together these projects. But you can't undermine the importance of really thoroughly preparing and getting a very in-depth understanding of what the project entails, especially when you're dealing with clients. Because you're not going to be in business long, as you mentioned earlier, if you're not a good listener and as far as really giving exactly what the client wants. At the end of the day, it's their money, so they definitely want their best value or best worth for their investment.
Right.
So you have to do your due diligence as yourself to make sure that you're in position where you can kind of like really give the best and really hone in exactly on the specifics of what is entailed within the project.
Yeah. And I think as well, when it comes to sports events nowadays, and this is something I've been doing now for about a year, especially at the collegiate level, I'll reach out to the schools that I'm going to be seeing that, coming week up and reach out to their sports information contacts to get a copy of their pronunciation guide and then schedule a phone call with them. More often than not, they'll say yes. I'm available at such and such time if, we find a way to have our schedules be in the middle and go over like the names that I'm a little bit questionable about. Especially it's coming from like an international kid and it's one of those names where it's like, what does that say? There's no way. You really have to you really have to like listen carefully to what the other person over the phone is telling you.
Right.
A clue how to pronounce their hometowns. And I had a game earlier this week where like maybe 75 to 80% of their roster was compiled of kids from Europe or just like
Mm.
out of the US in general. And I'm like, well, based on what the client wants me to do when it comes to announcing the starting 11 because it was soccer, I'm like, okay, if you make a mistake, don't worry. It happens. Okay. Like I said, in live sports events, if you make a mistake, it's okay. Not a lot of people are listening. And in voiceover, when you're in studio or you have to travel to a recording studio, you get to, find different ways of saying whatever is on the script.
Yeah. So definitely what goes too with that for you guys out there is to be adaptable as well. You got to understand that not every given situation or the T's are going to be crossed or the I's are going to be dotted. You're going to run into some obstacles here and there. You just got to find that resolve within yourself to kind of take a breath, take a deep breather, and kind of reset yourself to see like how I can go about this properly and I don't make a fool of myself at the same time. So good points there. So let's dive a little bit more into your craft and ask you this, Matt. What is more difficult to master? Developing the right tone and emotion or the concentration needed to convey the thoughts through your delivery?
I think it's really a combination of both. Because how, you know, and both you and I can kind of, hone in on the fact that we have creative minds and sometimes, having that neurodiverse, or in my case, the autistic mindset, sometimes our brains are like thinking of different things. And it's like, how do you concentrate on the project or whatever it is that's in front of you?
Mhm.
And combining that with the right tone and emotion or style, right? Or give it the right feel so that you can really put in on how you want the message to sound to whoever's listening to your voice when they finally, see the commercial or the medical narration piece or the explainer video or what have you. It really comes down to finding the right balance between the right tone slash emotion and then, you know, just concentrating on how you're going to convey your thoughts, how it's going to come out on the other end.
I mean, you hit the nail on the coffin with that. When I was developing this outline and going over the questions, I kind of put myself into the mix. As you viewer out there know, I am a published author. So I kind of looked at it from that point of view too. Like in my writing process, when I'm putting together my book, yes, I'm trying to develop a certain tone because that's what I want the reader to feel, hopefully, when they're reading my words. But some people feel like, because I do events when I go ahead and read excerpts from my book, do book signings, events similar to that. And I always tell people it's just harder to pen it. It's hard to actually put the words down versus me having to have to perform it in front of people or read it toward people. By then, it's already been written and I already got a good understanding of exactly what kind of emotions that I want to bring to the forefront as the words are being recited. The part of dictation, it kind of has me in a flux a little bit because it's just like, am I really driving home the point here of whatever message that I'm trying to convey within my writing? Am I really bringing it to the forefront? Am I really bringing an emotion that hopefully the reader will feel when they actually read my material? So I always say in the beginning parts and just trying to develop how you're going to go about things, I always feel like that's a lot more difficult than you actually have to do it in the end because by then it should become like second nature.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it kind of flows in a similar manner with voice acting where you've got to figure out, okay, what does the client want? What are they asking out of me? And
Mhm.
how do you convey the message on the script to become believable in a sense that it will actually resonate with the people who are going to be watching the video, and then how do you combine it with the audio of my voice or another voice actor to
Mhm.
get that feel and understanding of, oh, okay, I think I want to buy into this thing. It,
Mhm.
I I've had,
Mhm.
well, only like a hand few that have, seen the first commercial I did for a closet company, and they're like, oh my God,
Well,
this voice makes me want to buy into a closet now. So
mhm.
it works in similar ways, but it in some instances different ways too, because you got to convey the listener, in my case, as opposed to the reader, in your sense, when it comes to being a published author.
Good point. And it's always like a real treat too. Like when people, what you originally designed for what you're doing, like in your case with your voice and the subtle nuances that you have to display within your voice, and how people pick up on that and they're just like, wow, like you doing commercials or just doing the live broadcasting, the live events of now you got people really scoped into the game of just describing different things, going along with the event or the game that you're announcing. So it's a great feeling when people can, like, you feel like you accomplished your exact goal. You know, it kind of looks a little off when it's just like, especially when you're in your element and you kind of don't feel it. Hopefully I'm explaining this properly for you guys. Like, if I'm reciting my poetry at an event, sometimes I can sense that I'm not really conveying the emotions properly.
Right.
And then you kind of look out into the crowd and you kind of see it through their facial expressions. It's just like, man, I'm starting to lose them a little bit. So I know in your line of work, that can happen very subtly and very quickly. If you
Mm,
don't have everything lined up just perfectly, people may not be so, they're quickly fell out in tune with what you're trying to do.
exactly. Exactly. You
So,
really in character, or just stay in a certain way to really get their attention and keep it going, especially if it's like, for example, if I'm announcing a New York Boulders baseball game, I've got to really, understand that we're down by like one or two runs in the bottom of the ninth. We've got runners on base. You got to keep bringing the energy if that's what your boss wants. I've learned it, this past
yeah,
first season working as the voice of the Boulders. You gotta keep the energy going without damaging your voice, obviously.
yeah, I can imagine.
And that's where the tea and honey come in.
Yeah, I hear that. So I'm intrigued personally for this next question. I'm intrigued to see what your answer is. We discussed different types of voice work that you do, the different arenas, so to speak, that you've been able to tap into. So, which type of voice work you personally enjoy the most?
Geez, I feel like I'm being asked the question, what's my favorite sport to announce? And I'm gonna, the usual answer is the one that pays. I'm dead
Yeah, I
serious.
hear that.
Sometimes when I get asked this question in sports, people are really expecting me to like say what their favorite sport because they're expecting me to know what they like. I'm like, really? Like, how can I set those expectations on you? What kind of expectations are
Mhm.
you setting on me, right? I think it's the one that pays the amount of money that both the client and I can agree upon, right? Because as a voice actor, there are times where if you're not working with an agent, you got to negotiate on your own. Okay. You're the voice actor, you're the human resource specialist, you're the accounts receivable department. You're also the negotiator. You've got to figure out what's the best price between yourself and the client, which is why I've learned as a voice actor, the best question to ask your clients once you get all the, specs when it comes to like, okay, what genre is this in? How long is the project? What kinds of platforms is it going to run on? You obviously dive into other additional questions, like what market or what like TV or radio station or stations will it be, broadcasted on. But the bigger question is, what is your budget? how much are you willing to spend on a voice actor? And sometimes the question varies. I actually, spoke with someone over Zoom yesterday about a project they had in mind that they were basically looking to use a different voice actor that didn't sound flat. They were looking for someone with an announcery style tone, and they thought of me. And I, eventually got the question of what's your budget, and they really weren't sure. They weren't really certain how much money to spend on this kind of project. That's a question I'm going to have to get back to them on in the coming days. But I think it really comes down to, again, the type of voice work that will, pay the right money, depending on what you and the client agree upon behind closed doors.
I gotta tell you, I appreciate your honesty here, man, because I definitely asked this question to a lot of other different people from all different backgrounds and whatnot. And bless their heart, but they tend to sometimes give me this very over analytical answer. And I don't feel like it's that type of question. Not that I don't respect what they're saying, but I do. But in a way, I just truly, your honesty was like a breath of fresh air because it's the truth. It's a business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're in business to make money. Not that it's the utmost focal point, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely within your top three. When you're thinking about doing your business, of course you love the craft. You love what you're doing. But at the same time, you want to be compensated fairly for the amount of work that you're doing. So again, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. You're definitely the first person ever on the show just gave me a straight answer like that. I definitely appreciate that.
My pleasure.
I love it because, again, you're not trying to make it a money thing all the time, but at the same time, especially when you're going in negotiations, you're pretty straightforward with an outline of exactly what I'm responsible for as a service provider and what you're going to be responsible for as a client. And negotiations tend to get a little haywire sometimes. It's just simpler for that. Even though I'm making it very clear, this is what I'm able to do, and this is the price point for what you're asking me to do. So it's funny how, like in your case, somebody reached out to you because they thought of you for this particular project. And then when you go into negotiation, I'm not saying this happened to you with your situation yesterday. I'm just speaking more for myself.
Sure.
You reach out to me, we sit down, discuss the scope of the project, and then it turns into more of like attack mode, like you're attacking me. But it's like you reached out to me. So obviously you reached out to me, then you're familiar with what I'm doing, which means you like the content that I produce. You like the way how I conduct business and how I go about things. So the fact that we have blurs here over these negotiations, which it doesn't need to be, because if you're clear on how you're conducting your business and what your price point is and so forth, there shouldn't really be no discrepancies like that. So that's why I really appreciate your answer because, again, bless everybody else's heart. Of course, you love the artistry, you love what you're doing, but, let's be honest here. It's business, it's about the money and making sure that I'm compensated fairly here. So,
Well, it's not just about the money; it's also about the opportunity.
yeah, that too, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up. And networking, because you never know working with a certain client. And interviewers, you definitely want to make every client you come across when you're conducting business feel special because you don't know what kind of resources, connections that client has. And that might just open up another world for you to bringing in more business for yourself. So definitely appreciate you bringing that up about opportunities. You want to make the most out of every situation you come across with clients and, put your best product out there. So, Matt, can you speak to the viewers about Nelson Bruce's?
Yeah, so I established that back in December 2023, obviously with the intent on expanding my list of voice tools, how I go about the use of my voice outside of sports. And Nelson Voices, obviously, it was one of the first names I came up with, knowing that my last name is Nelson. It was also a nickname that was kind of given to me by a bunch of my classmates in grade school. I don't appreciate people calling me Nelson or even Matthew nowadays. It's a pet peeve of mine. Dead serious. It just resonated well with, what I wanted to make my business all about. You're getting the voice of me. You're getting Matt Nelson's voice. And when you guys, if anyone has an opportunity to take a look at my logo, the biggest thing that you'll probably notice, and I'm kind of wearing the hint of what is on my logo, is a rainbow horizontal infinity sign. There's only one of these on the logo, right below the mic. So like pretty much towards the bottom of the mic stand in my logo.
Okay.
Informing my clients, hey, you're getting service from a business owner who also happens to be autistic and neurodiverse. And so I wanted to showcase that on the company logo. And when my new website becomes revamped, which probably happen at some point later before the new year, I am going to make a note of it in my bio. I am a member of the autistic and neurodiverse communities. And if people want to approach that subject with me, it needs to be done in a method consistent with how people need to approach that topic, because some people just don't know how to approach it.
Mhm.
They're either afraid to do it, or they say the wrong thing that could lead to some harmful words. And then it would, in my case, relegate me to educate them on how to say it in more of an appropriate manner, so that there's not only trust, but that there's also an understanding of that person because of how their brain is wired, if that makes sense to you and
Yeah.
the viewers/listeners.
That makes perfect sense. It's definitely something, again, I could resonate with. My oldest son is autistic as well, so I'm definitely fully aware of how to communicate. That's the biggest thing when it comes, just in my opinion, that I had to overcome. It's just the way to communicate, because the way he sees things is obviously so much different than how I see things.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking I'm being very clear with the message that I'm saying or trying to convey to him, and I'm not. And then sometimes you just kind of lose fact within the interaction that, hey, they're looking at things differently. So you're going to
Exactly.
have to change your approach a little bit. And then sometimes you kind of get a little haughty and a little bit ahead of yourself, like stuck to your guns, so to speak. And it's like you just have to give yourself that refresher. Like, remember who you're talking to. It's not that they're trying to be ignorant or they're not trying to see it from your point of view. You just need to change your approach on how you communicate and how, whatever it is you're trying to convey to them.
And also realize too that they process things differently from you,
Yeah.
or other people who don't have that kind of mindset that, allows them to have a differently wired brain per se.
Yeah. Definitely a good point. I appreciate you bringing that up. So this next question is kind of a fun question. It's definitely intriguing as well. Your ultimate goal is to become the voice of a major sports franchise. And I'm assuming that's still a goal for you.
Oh yeah.
So explain to the viewers why. What's so special about that goal?
So when I was in college, I wanted to broadcast sports, as in my case, it was doing play-by-play for like a major sports franchise. Whether that team was in Major League Baseball, the NFL, Major League Soccer, or the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a fan of hockey back then, but then when I started
Oh,
being, trust me, hockey during and then after the pandemic, it actually opened my eyes to realize, okay, I wouldn't mind being the PA announcer for an NHL franchise.
yeah.
What was that?
No, I was saying, yeah, like I love hockey. So
Yeah.
that would be awesome if you do that.
So because of how things kind of went in my sports broadcasting career, I ultimately transitioned out of that, but I had to shift what the ultimate goal slash dream was going to be when it comes to working in professional sports, rather than be, the play-by-play voice of a major sports franchise. It would be the PA announcer for one or multiple major sports franchises, depending on how things go about in the future. And the fact that I'm doing it now for an independent professional sports team that plays baseball from like May until August or September, I think that definitely now gives me a better sense of where I am within like the sports announcing plateau, knowing that, okay, I can actually do this. Now, how do we continue to build up? One of my clients happens to be a pre-professional soccer team that's been exploring professional expansion in upper levels of, in this instance, it would be minor league level soccer. So I think getting to like the minor league level, or in this case, where I am now with baseball, the indie ball level, could potentially, put me in a position where if I have the opportunity to audition for a major sports franchise down the road, especially if it's done in person, how things are nowadays when it comes to how these major sports teams, set those standards when it comes to finding that new voice. I want them to be able to see, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy can resonate with what our crowd wants and with what we want. He is able to make those adaptations and those changes. So the goal of working for a major sports franchise hasn't changed. The one thing that has is just how I go about working for them down the road. And I have other goals
Go
too,
ahead.
to working in other, genres of voiceover, but I think ultimately when it comes to sport, it's being the voice of a major sports team.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that real quick. Would you consider doing like gaming studios to do voice work for like video games, maybe like an actual like a recording show, animation show, or maybe like movies at some point, like doing some type of narration for like movies? Did you ever consider like maybe you want to get into that?
It's funny because a lot of people who are in voiceover have asked me about like, have I ever thought about voicing video games or audiobooks? I'm like, I'm still very early into my voiceover career. Let me explore the genre I want to pursue first. And then
Okay.
I see that, okay, I can lend my voice to characters or anime or dubbing or audiobooks or video game. Okay. And maybe I'll explore those avenues at the appropriate time. So to answer your question on video games, I don't think that's something I can answer at the moment.
Okay.
See how things go in the future.
Oh, definitely. That's definitely something I could appreciate as well. You definitely have to be comfortable, because if you're not comfortable within yourself as far as like what you're doing, then obviously your product is going to suffer. So I definitely commend you that you're willing to kind of just go more in depth with the artistry and just kind of find your way a little bit. I think sometimes people make a mistake of kind of just diving into something and really not thinking it out all the way through. And then they wonder, why isn't things going the way I wanted to go? Maybe because you didn't take the time to really get to know yourself personally, so that you can get an understanding of what you're capable of doing, what you're not capable of doing. I think people are afraid to face their limitations. And the fact is, your limitations or your weaknesses can become strengths at some point. You just got to be willing to put in the work.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people tend to overlook that. They're just kind of like, hey, I just want to be perfect at everything. I want everything to just go swimmingly. It's not.
This is why progress is better than perfectionism.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, I think people need to realize is about just take a little bit more time for yourself. I know people have deadlines, you're trying to meet them, you have certain expectations and you want them done at a certain time. I get all that. But sometimes just taking a little bit more time to kind of hone in on your craft and make it a little bit better, it's just going to make the world a difference to you in the long run.
Exactly.
You gotta look at things from a long-term view and not a short-term view. At the end of the day, this is the level where you want to get at. This is the goals that you want to accomplish. You're not going to accomplish them overnight. It's going to take time. So you got to play the long ball game and just really just keep working at your craft and just trying to get better.
Exactly.
So, Matt, last but not least, the viewers want to know what's on the horizon for you. What's new developments? I know probably certain things you can't go into detail, but is there anything new on the horizon that you're going to be working on?
Yeah. So, based on the timing of this interview, it's late October, and that means college basketball season is about a week and a half away from officially kicking off. So, yeah, college basketball coming up in November. The first true crossover season for a lot of people who work in collegiate athletics is upon us. Transition from fall, going into winter, and then balancing the end of fall with the beginning of, the winter sports, whether it be basketball or ice hockey or wrestling, what have you. So yeah, Division I basketball season right around the corner. Going to be having a lot of baseball on my calendar between the New York Boulders indie ball team and a lot of college baseball. One of those teams I cannot publicly say at the moment because I haven't been given the green light to put that information out there. But there will be some new Division I sports that I'll be doing starting next month. Sport I've dabbled in a little bit, but haven't done it on a consistent basis. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, just getting to that first busy time of the season where we are, having to shift gears from sports such as football, soccer, field hockey, and volleyball to going into basketball and a sport that I will get into more detail about probably in the next several days or so. The stuff in the spring I'll probably reveal at some point later.
Nice. Bravo to you. It's always great to be around like-minded people who staying busy, working on different projects, creating more opportunities for yourself. Can you, real quick to the viewers, where can they contact you so that if they're interested in utilizing your service?
Yeah, so you can pretty much hook me up. Again, my website, nelsonvoices.com. It's still out there. It's going through some revamping. It's going to be a very different look that will fit my personality, if you would. So that's hoping to be rolled out at some point by the end of 2024. As far as social media, you can find me on X at MATTNEL23. Instagram, my handle is MATT.NEL23. I'm also on LinkedIn, Lineable. I have 2 separate YouTube accounts. I'm pretty much I'm on a lot of different platforms that the average social media guru can probably know.
Awesome. So you hear that, guys? If you're interested in any kind of voice work, this is the guy you got to go see. And I'm pretty sure, Matt, too, you will provide, even for people who just want to reach out to you to kind of just get a little bit more information about the process of trying to get into the business. I know you will provide that for them as well. So just look them out. You want to utilize the service, business owner, support your local businesses. This is a perfect one right here. Or if you're just looking to reach out to Matt to just get some more information, hey, look him up. He's not hard to find. Matt, I appreciate you tuning in and being on the show today. It was definitely, like I said, a real treat and a privilege and pleasure to be talking with you. And I just want to say on behalf of Olympia Multimedia, blessings to you on all your endeavors. And I hope everything that you're trying to accomplish comes true for you. So, much blessings to you, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for having me. Glad we got to do this.
Definitely. So, you know who it is, guys. It's Zeus Cruz of Olympia Multimedia. And we appreciate you tuning in. And only thing left to say is check you later.